completed the first group and the second group in the protista. Next, we have taken the third group, that is Euglenoids. Let me see some of the general characteristics that can be seen under Euglenoids. The first characteristic is, as usual, these are the Euglenoids are the protozoans which are found in fresh water. And freshwater protistans, they are found in the stagnant water. Usually stagnant water means the water which is not in a flowing condition, which it might be a lake, it may be a pond, it may be a well, and also it may be a paddy field. Like this, these Euglenoids are commonly found in the fresh water as well as in the stagnant water. The previous chrysophytes and dinoflagellates, what we saw, they were marine form. But here, Euglenoids are the freshwater form. They do not possess cell wall. This is the major difference between chrysophytes, dinoflagellates as well as the Euglenoids. Euglenoids do not have cell wall, but the chrysophytes as well as the dinoflagellates both were having the cell wall, but Euglenoids do not have cell wall. What we can say? The cell wall is absent. And the body of the Euglenoids is covered by the flexible protein-rich cover. Flexible protein-rich cover called as pellicle. Usually, the previous groups of protozoans, their body was covered with cell wall, but here in Euglenoids, their body is covered by a flexible membrane, protein-rich membrane, and that we are calling it as pellicle. The Euglenoids possess a long and short flagella. Long as well as the short flagella like green plants. And like green plants, this point is continued from here. Like green plants, they possess pigments. Pigment harvest sunlight and synthesize their own food, and hence they are called as autotrophs. This is a different point and this is a different characteristic. I'll repeat, no confusion. These Euglenoids, they possess a long as well as a short flagella. We discussed about flagella in the previous group itself. That means it is a whip-like a tubular elongated structure which is arising from the inner plasma membrane, or here we can take it as from the pellicle, and the flagella is helpful in locomotion to push the water currents and to move in the direction, and that is about the flagella. The next point is, like green plants, these Euglenoids possess the pigment harvest. They may also consist of chlorophyll pigment, that means which is capable of harvesting the sunlight, means receives the pigment which is capable of accepting the sunlight and synthesizes their own food, and hence they are manufacturing their own food. We can call them as autotrophs. In the absence of sunlight, they predate on some other organisms, some other small organisms which are present in the stagnant water, and hence we can call them as the heterotrophs. So what we can conclude here is the euglenoids are acting both like autotrophs, and also we can find many of the heterotrophic euglenoids. Autotrophic euglenoids means they are preparing or manufacturing their own food by the help of sunlight, and hence they are autotrophs. Heterotrophic euglenoids means these heterotrophic euglenoids are depending or they are predating on some small organisms which are present in the stagnant water where do they live, and hence we can call them as the heterotrophs. One of the best example which we are seeing since from many years in our lower classes, that is nothing but the Euglena. Euglena is the best example for the euglenoids. Next, we shall see the picture of Euglena. It is living in a freshwater fauna, and it is having the outermost membrane which we can call it as nothing but a pellicle, which is a protective covering, and within that there is a presence of nucleus which encloses or where the genetic material is present, and also within the nucleus we can find nucleolus. Within the nucleus we are observing the innermost nucleolus, and within the protoplasm there is a presence of contractile vacuole. There is a presence of contractile vacuole which intakes water and which releases water through osmosis process, and also here there is a presence of chloroplast. Chloroplast is present, that means it is a pigment which is helpful in synthesizing or manufacturing the food by the help of utilization of sunlight and many other raw materials. And also we can find here stored polysaccharide from the photosynthesis. Stored polysaccharides from the photosynthesis. These polysaccharides are the stored energy that can be seen in euglenas, which are obtained by the process of photosynthesis. And also here we are seeing the photoreceptor, that means which is the receptor point which receives the light or the light from the sun, and it is receiving the sunlight and sending to the chloroplast. And the major thing here is flagellum, which is arising from or inner region of the protoplasm, that is flagellum. It is a whip-like structure which is helpful for the locomotion. This is one of the best example for euglenoids, that is Euglena, and this is about the euglenoids. Next we shall see the fourth group of protistans, that is slime moulds. Where do we find these? These are the saprophytic protistans. If we recall, in the previous session we discussed about the general characteristics of protistans. There we mentioned a point that the members of protistans, some resemble the features of plants, some of the protistans will show the characteristics of animals, as well as some of the protistans will show or behave like fungi. So here we got the answer for that type of protistans, that is slime moulds. These are the protistans which are saprophytic, protistans of aquatic habitat. They are living in the aquatic form and showing the saprophytic protistans. What is saprophytic? These are the organisms which derive nutrition from the dead and decaying organic plants parts, dead and decaying organic matter, by depending on them for their nutrition, by deriving the nutrition from dead and decaying plant waste. Hence we are calling them as saprophytic. They are depending on the dead and decaying waste of the plants as well as animals. Hence, because of they are obtaining nutrition from the dead organic substances, we are calling them as the saprophytes, saprophytic protozoans. And during favorable conditions, they multiply. That means they reproduce, they multiply rapidly and aggregates many meters long. This is called as plasmodium, and this is called plasmodium. This is about the favorable condition. If the same thing happens in unfavorable condition, during unfavorable conditions, they form extremely resistant spores. Extremely resistant spores in their fruiting bodies. That means these slime molds will having a fruiting body. Which part is considered as fruiting body? That means the part which produces the spores is called as fruiting body. And what type of spores are produced here? Extremely resistant. That means if there is unfavorable condition, these spores are capable of resisting that unfavorable condition. It might be temperature, salinity, or very low temperature or high temperature. It varies like this. Unfavorable condition is resisted, is tolerated by these spores, and that is produced by the fruiting bodies. I'll repeat. During unfavorable conditions, they form extremely resistant spores and in their fruiting body. Fruiting body means it is a part or a region where the spores are produced in the slime molds. That we call it as fruiting bodies. And these spores can survive for many years and they disperse by air. They disperse by air, and also they can survive for many years because they can tolerate, they can resist, they have that ability, and also they survive till where? Till the favorable condition is obtained. And when that favorable condition is obtained, they germinate and it leads to generation of new protozoan or the new slime molds. Next, here is one of the very clear and a beautiful picture of slime molds. This is the picture. What we are observing is slime mold. Now we are in the last group of the protozoans, that is the fifth group or the fifth type, that is the protozoan. This is under protista. The fifth type that we are studying under protista is protozoan. These are the protistans which are heterotrophs and also live as predators or the parasites. We shall recall the meaning of heterotrophs. That means these are the protozoans which are depending on other organisms to derive their nutrition, and such type of organisms is called as heterotrophs. And these protozoans live as predators or parasites. Predators, that means these protozoans will catch or depend on a very smaller, minute living organisms which are present in the water. They are depending, they are predating or catching those living organisms to obtain their nutrition, and hence we can call them as predators or parasites. That means these protozoans may enter into a body of living organism and they take nutrition from the inner surface of the host, and that harming the other organism, and hence we are calling them as parasites. I will repeat, the protozoans which are deriving nutrition from other organism by harming them or by harming the host cell or host organism, such type of protozoans are called as parasites. Now we shall frame the characteristic and see, these are the protistans. Protozoans are the protistans, a kind of protistans which are heterotrophs, means depending on other one, and live as predators or the parasites. In most of the characters, they resemble like animals. Now we got an answer. In previous sessions, we got these protozoans are acting like plants because they are producing their own food, and we call them as autotrophs, and they are acting like animals because they are depending on other organisms to derive their nutrition, as well as the protozoans were also acting like fungi because they were depending on the dead and decaying organic waste of plants. They were obtaining nutrition, and hence they were also called as saprophytes. Like this, they are acting like all type of kingdom organisms. Here, these protozoans are acting like or resembling like the animals. Hence, they are considered as primitive relative of the animals. Hence, these protozoans are considered as the primitive relative of the animals. Why we are calling them as primitive relatives? Because they are showing many of the features which resemble the characteristics of animals. Here, these protozoans are again further classified into 4 different types. The protozoans are further classified into 4 different types, such as the first type is amoeboid protozoans. The second one is flagellated protozoans, and the third one is ciliated protozoans, and the fourth, last one is the sporozoans. Based on some of the specific features present in these protozoans, they have classified into 4 types. First one we said amoeboid protozoans. That means which is showing amoebic movement or pseudopodial movement is seen. We shall know in detail in the next class. Flagellated protozoans, that means the protozoan which possess the flagella. And the third one is ciliated protozoan. These were having or possessing cilia for their locomotion. And sporozoans, these protozoans used to produce the spores by